Good evening and welcome to the FITT Show. Financial information for today and tomorrow. I'm Bobby P. Kinzer,
And I'm Thomas Doty.
and we are the FITT Show, helping our people get their finances in shape. How are you doing today, Thomas Doty?
And I couldn't be better. My grandkids are here. And you know how I love cars, Bob? The best way I can describe it is it's like having a Ferrari and not having to pay for
Wow,
it.
that's
Because
that's one
I
hell
have,
of a
I have
feeling.
no financial responsibility at all for them.
That's a good way to put it.
And
Good.
I enjoy the heck out of them.
That's an awesome thing. You got some awesome grandkids, man, and so do I. Have a grandchild, Morgan, who's Morgan's 9. Ooh, boy, she's getting up there. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for tuning in across the country and across the waters over in England and Scotland and Ireland and thereabouts. We are here. We discussing financial topics. We hope that they are topics that are of interest to you. By the way, if you have some topics that are different than what we have, please put them in the comment box and let us know. Also, use the comment box to give your perspective. And if you disagree or even if you agree with us, use that comment box because it helps us reach more people with the algorithms. Also, please click on the like button and the thumbs up button and the happy smiley face. That helps us also. We're here every Thursday, 8 p.m. This is our 95th show. And last week we said, the topic was, would you rather be rich or wealthy, which was a trick question because at the end we said, if you're miserable, it doesn't matter what you are, if you're rich or poor. But that was a good another discussion we had, and we always are looking forward to discuss more topics. And like I always say, you all, make sure you go out and share this information with your friends. It's Facebook Live and also YouTube because a lot of people are not on Facebook, and we're here. So, dope. Let's get to the top of our show. How we always start off with a stock market update.
Yeah, things look pretty good. I mean, the Dow is up almost 1,000 points over last week at 3%. NASDAQ's up slightly. Microsoft's up 8. Tesla took a big drop. And what's going on there is the Treasury implemented some new rules aimed at trying to push the climate control. And they're trying to encourage EV makers to use batteries that are produced in the US. So on April 18th, a lot of the EV cars will lose part of their tax credit because of where their batteries are sourced and components and things of that sort. So that's kind of having a drag on a lot of the EV makers, and pretty much all of them. And as you can see, it's kind of hit Tesla. And so it's just trying to encourage battery production here. Right now, China controls all of that. So that's what's going there. But then again, Tesla's up 60% this year. So it's kind of time for a breather anyway. Apple is up 3 points, and Pfizer is even up a couple points. And again, you see the things going up, but there's still a lot of negative tailwinds out there. And I don't think in the past that the S&P has ever bottomed out while interest rates are going up, and we are still in the rising interest rate environment. And we just had a big gas increase, so that's going to have a negative effect on inflation. And as we all know, the worse inflation gets, the higher interest rates will go. So there's still a lot of negative things out there, but as we always say, you're looking at the long term. You don't get bothered with the day to day and what's going on. So that's where we are now. How's your crypto doing, Bobby?
Okay, let's talk to all you cryptoites out there. Crypto, the market cap is up 19 billion, up from 1,210 billion. It's up to 1,229. So it's up about 2%. So that means people are putting money back into cryptocurrency. The Bitcoin is now up $159 per Bitcoin, up from $27,901 to $28,060. That's up about 1%. Remember, beginning of the year, cryptocurrency was at $16,000. So if you were in it, you sure that's a big increase, though.
Yeah, that's for sure. But
And Ethereum, which is the smart contracts, by the way, um, they that's up like $88. That's actually up about 5%. So that's pretty good. And then Tether, which is the stable coins that's pegged to the dollar, is growing in its actually market cap. So that's how you track this. Dogecoin went up a penny. I don't know what happened, but it's up. And Shiba Inu, I don't know, dude. I think we're going to start replacing that with something else, man, to look at, because it's just been that meme code. It's just been holding there, man. It hasn't been going damn near nowhere.
Yeah, and Bobby, as you usually say, crypto is extremely speculative, and not saying you shouldn't invest in it, but if you do, it should have a very small part of your portfolio, and you shouldn't have any money that you're depending on or that you need invested in crypto, because it's an extremely speculative market.
And Doug, I was just doing the math here. That's kind of interesting. From January, just January, Bitcoin is up 75%.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
God dang. But it's highly speculative, y'all. Like we said, I mean, there's no telling with this particular currency, this digital currency. But hey, that's the life we living in. So, like we said, if you get involved, just make sure, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's the
and nothing you need.
Exactly. So, Doug, let's get into our topic of the day, which is the truths about retirement.
Yeah, it's interesting, Bob, because we both have done this, and we got a lot of positive things about it, and there's some things that we probably wish we had done better or wish we had known more about. But I mean, the thing about retirement, you can have unexpected medical costs. Some people end up having to support their adult children because they lose their jobs or whatever situations happen to them, and you can find yourself with expenses that you weren't anticipating, and it's harder to save for retirement now than it was 50 years ago. Very few companies have pensions anymore. People are kind of forced to save the money on their own, and it's kind of sad, but nearly 50% of seniors plan to work part-time after they retire. So if you're not sure how long you need to work or what to expect when you retire, find out some of the hard truths so you can figure it out and make sure you have a plan to get you where you want to be.
So preparing for retirement at any age is not only challenging, it's downright scary, especially in an unpredictable economy with near historically low interest rates and they're going up and looming recession. When preparing for retirement, the best approach is to first create your vision, priorities, and goals, and then assess how much you will really need. Avoid getting caught up in the misinformation game. Now, keep in mind the following common truths that we're going to talk about, and plan your retirement with a big dose of reality.
Yeah, so I'll start with the first one, Bobby, and some of your investment success will be left to chance. And what that means is what happens in the market 10 years before and after you retire can have a significant effect on how much money you have. I mean, if you're in the middle of a boom and you retire and you're sitting pretty, it's obviously it's good. But if you retire in the last couple of years and during this recession, it obviously could have a negative effect. And it's hard to replace lost money when you don't have time. We always talk about how the time value of money allows you to accumulate a large hunk of money. But when you're in retirement, theoretically, you don't have a lot of time. So one thing you ought to think about doing is when you get close to that retirement window, you might want to be a little bit more conservative, knowing that things could get crazy.
Yeah, and another one is, you could still invest too conservatively, because sometimes you might want to stay clear of like these high aggressive stocks, because you could end up making mistakes in retirement or outspending your lifestyle. So retirees should look to invest in like total return type strategies that focus on stock appreciation. Dividend stocks are really good. Good quality bonds that have long maturities is another thing. Many people, who approach retirement have 60% stock, 40% bond allocation because they're getting closer to retirement. And they emphasize dividend producing stocks and bonds that have usually, longer, not as long maturities, like maybe less than 6 years. But sometimes people get, too conservative.
Yeah, and this is one that affects a lot of people. You might not be saving enough. And according to a survey, 64% of Americans have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. And that's sobering, because that even if you're gonna live modestly, that won't get it done. You will not be living very well, especially if you hit an inflationary time like we're going through now. And so, as we've always recommended, make sure you're taking advantage of your 401k plans, your IRA accounts, maximize your contributions whenever possible. Start as early as you can to put money away and to take advantage of compounding. But you just don't want to be stuck having to work when you're old and tired.
And there's another one called Whether You're Young, right? So more than half of the millennials have zero saved in the bank for retirement, and that's according to the Gold Banking Rate Survey. And that's kind of crazy when you think of it, when you think about it, because the younger you are, the greater potential you have to grow your nest egg through the power of compound interest, which Albert Einstein said is one of the seven wonders of the world. So if you start saving just $200 a month at age 25 with an 8% return, by the time you're 65 years old, just saving $200 a month, starting at age 25, it can grow with compounded interest to $621,735 by the time you're 65. So whether you're young, it does make a difference.
Or whether you're older. I mean, it's sad, but most baby boomers, they aren't doing much better when it comes to saving. Again, according to that survey, 30.7% of people over 55 have retirement savings of less than $50,000. And again, that's not going to get it done for a happy retirement. Even again, if you plan on living modestly. So if you're starting late, you might have to play catch up. You might have to put a whole lot more money away, or last resort, you might have to delay your retirement a few years.
Hey, Maddie, how you doing? Maddie Ford out there. Maddie said, what about CDs and their interest rates?
Right now, CDs are reasonable, but again, right now CDs are paying between 4 and 5. I've seen 5.5%, which isn't bad, but I mean, and this is a personal preference. I think CDs are great, but when I look at the average increase of the S&P since 1930, it averages 9%, and 5% CD rate is good, but I'd rather average 9%. Now, the closer you get to retirement, money you want to be safe, definitely CD is the way to go. But for long term, I like to be invested in the S&P.
Yeah, and like I said, CDs are good, but you got to remember, if you're getting like 4% and inflation is up there, it kind of wipes out your gains in CDs if it's just 4% and inflation is like 8%. But I mean, right now.
But it should definitely be part of your portfolio, no question, because the rates are decent right now.
Right. Yeah. So you probably live longer than your folks. Which costs more? The average life expectancy in the United States today, and this is from the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, and I think it's actually they recalibrated, but they said it's about at 79. I've seen some places where for men it's like 86 and women 88, but it probably came down since the pandemic because it used to be higher. Now I think about it, that's why that number probably is lower. But the ugly truth about retirement is that the longer we live, the more you have to, have to fund for your extended golden years. So with Americans living longer than ever, there's no surprise that the biggest concern is outliving their income. But the good news is there are solutions for outliving income, such as looking into products that offer guaranteed lifetime income. Some people like fixed index annuities as opposed to variable index annuities, which are really, really volatile. But some people, they want a sure income, so they look to fixed annuities.
Okay, and you can make a big mistake by mistiming your Social Security benefits. That's a key component of retirement. And so many people like to jump out there at 62, but for every year you wait, your payout increases by about 8%. And again, it's hard to make 8% guaranteed. And that's what you make by waiting a year to take your retirement. I think I told you guys, I waited until my full retirement age to take my Social Security. I kind of did a break-even analysis and determined that my break-even point was somewhere between 77 and 78 years old. And what that says is if I live past that break-even point, let's say 77, then I would have been better off waiting in a total dollar standpoint. But if I go before then, theoretically, I would be ahead of the game because I would have the money early. But my thinking really was more based on I'd rather have the money starting at 66 because I know I'm in a position to enjoy it now, to travel, do whatever I want, go visit my grandkids. And the thing is, for me, I just don't think I'll be doing a whole lot of traveling once I'm in my 80s. So that's what drove me to take it at full retirement age. And which to me, it'd have to be an extreme situation to take it out before you hit your full retirement age. Because again, if you take it out at 62, that's about 32% that you're losing. And you have all the other things. If you're still working and take it out, you have limits that you can lose some of it if you haven't reached full retirement age. You take Social Security out, and those are things you need to know. If you take it out before your full retirement age and you are still working, you will lose some of the benefit. And so those are things that you need to find out and make sure you understand. I've mentioned before how your Medicare bill is based on your income. Well, Social Security is considered part of your income. So it also has another effect of raising your Medicare costs. So those are all things you should take into account. You want to make sure you pick the right date to start taking your Social Security benefits.
So Rodney, thenoteexperience.com, Madison said, how do you calculate the Social Security break-even point?
Well, just to do it simply, you can go to the website and figure out what your payment will be. And they will tell you if you start taking it at 62, this is what your payment will be. And you can actually get that information for every year. So the way you do it, let's say your payment at 62, I'll just make up a number. Let's say it's $1,000. Okay. So at 63, it would be 1,080. Okay. Then 64, it'd be 8% higher and 8% higher. So what you do, let's say you want to compare taking it out at 66 versus 70. Take the amount at 66, okay? Figure out how much cash you'll have on hand if you keep taking it out at that point, and then calculate what it would be at 70, okay? and that should be about a 30% difference. And then you say, okay, how much of that, how long will it take for me to recoup this money that I've already had, that I've already received? The money you've received between 66 and 70. Okay. And that's how you figure out your break even. So it would take me about 8 years to 7-8 years to get back all the money that I've taken out between 66 and 70.
And the same applies if you took the money that you would be making at 62. Say you took it early, and say you were getting at 62, let's say, and I'm just throwing some numbers out there for hypothetical. Say you were getting $2,000, right? And so that means you're going to get $2,000 a year into your full retirement. I mean, excuse me, that's $24,000 a year.
Right.
Until, and you add it up 5 times, so 62 to 65. Well, let's say you don't get your retirement until 66. So you multiply the 24 times 4 years, right? And that shows how much
5 years. 62,
excuse me, 5 years.
64, 65.
Right? And you'll see how much that if this is what people miss out on, Rodney, they don't calculate that you're going to be getting money, even though you're getting less, but you getting money, $2,000 a month for 5 years, right?
So Bob, that would be $120,000 you get.
So then you go and start at, say you took it at the full retirement at 66, right? And say you just throwing out a number. Let's say it was, you would have been getting.
Bob, it would be about 29,000 if you waited. So you're comparing 20,000 to 29,000.
So then you multiply the 29, right? That you wait, if you waited to 66, and see how much that you add that up until it get close to the amount that you got for 5 years, from 62 to 66, and that's your break-even point. That shows if you would have waited, right, and started getting it at 65, 66, say when it took you, say, for me, it would have took me 5, 6, 7 years, right?
Yeah, to recoup.
So that means at 66, so 73, around 73, 74, that's my break-even point. That's what it's called, the break-even point. And I hope you follow that. So once again, if you took the money at 2,000 at 62, 2,000 a month, 24,000, you multiply that by the 5 years when you get to 66, whatever that amount is, then you go from 66, the amount you would have been getting, say like you would have got 3,000 as opposed to 2,000 if you waited, right? Then you multiply that you multiply that and measure it against the amount that you would have gotten if you'd taken it early, and that would show you that's the break-even point. And for me, it would have been like 74, 75. So I took it early because I'm like, I need the money now. I ain't going to wait until I'm 74. That's my break-even point. I'm like, why do I need it? And I have a daughter that's in a high college tuition, so I took it early.
Yeah, and everybody's situation is different. And it's funny, there's no right answer or wrong answer because all the amounts are based on actuarial tables to pay out, and nobody knows when they're going to die anyway. So it's a guess for everybody. But I'm kind of like you, Bob. Once I turn 66, I'm like, yeah, I want the money now. I want to enjoy it now.
And then some people, like, because they got this little mojo scaring thing that Social Security is going to be gone by 2030. So some people are like, well, I'd rather take it now in case it's not going to be there. This is what I say to people with that. If anything, it's going to be grandfathered. If they start messing with Social Security, I don't think they're going to mess with the people who are already like at our age, though.
Yeah, they're probably going to do like France is doing, raise the age, which they've been doing anyway. The full retirement age has been going up consistently based on past legislation.
Yeah. They went off the other day because they took them up. Where were they at? I think they were at 60 with Metaran.
France went, I think, 62 to 64.
Right, but before the Metaran, who was the president,
yeah, it was lower than that before.
it was at 60. Then they took it to 62, and they complaining at 64. We got 66 and a half, and
right.
boy, but they don't play over there. All right, so back to our story about retirement truths. One of them is you might regret skipping your Roth contribution. You young people, you are the younger you are, the more you can benefit from Roth accounts because they're funded with after-tax dollars, which accumulate investment earnings tax-free for the life of their investment. That makes them a great option if you expect to be in a higher tax rate in retirement than you do now. And that's what happened with me, though. The traditional deferred tax, the thought was when you retire that you would probably be making less.
Well, no,
you retired.
Right, and be in a lower tax bracket, right.
And that means you would have been in a lower tax bracket. But for me, because me and my wife, we planned well, that kept us in the higher tax bracket. So I wish they would have had Roth back then because that's the way to go, though. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, well, no, and that's one of the mistakes I made because I have a large sum of money in tax deferred. And when you sit and you got X amount of money saved and you expect it to continue to grow, and at 72, 73, when you have to start taking the required minimum distribution, you're going to be hit with a pretty healthy tax. Now, I'm not going to complain because I'm getting a bunch of money and I got to pay tax on it. But I think knowing what I know now, I would have put more into a Roth. I would have had more outside of the tax deferred. But again, I had no idea what tax bracket. I thought like you, Bob, I'd be in a lower tax bracket when I retired. But between my pension, Social Security, and what I make in stock and stuff, I'm still up there paying a pretty high tax. So once I start adding in the required minimum distribution, I'm going to be paying a pretty big hunk of money to taxes. And it's only going to get worse as my portfolio continues to grow. So assuming I continue to live, obviously, and that amount continue to grow, that required minimum distribution gets larger and larger. So a lot of people are pushing that that's a hidden tax bomb. And I don't quite see it that way because you didn't pay tax on that money initially. So at some point you have to pay tax on that money.
Right.
And so it's I don't see it as a tax bomb, but it is something that should be managed. You should make sure you know what you're doing and have a good mix between what you have saved tax deferred and what you have saved after taxes. And a Roth, yeah, as Bobby said, they're definitely the way to go. And that leads to the next point, and it kind of leads right into it. You have numerous financial issues to consider. And we just talked about some of those. So when you talked about planning cash flows and knowing how much money you have and knowing where you should pull money from first. Should you pull it from things that are outside of the IRA, maybe that has a long-term gain possibility? You got your pension, you got Social Security, we talked about Medicare costs. All these things are things you have to figure out. And it's as complicated as it is when you were working. And in people's minds, I think they think, oh, I get to retire and just kick back. No, it's things you have to get straight before you retire to make sure your ducks are in a row, that you are minimizing your taxes and are planned or you are covered if you do live a very long life. So a lot of financial things to consider. And as we always say, if you need help, go find help.
Yeah, it's very, very much so, though. Another one, you probably need to supplement your Medicare. Now, this one gets a lot of people. You know, though, what I found so interesting, right? That Medicare doesn't cover your teeth, your eyes, or your ears. And don't you think that's the main thing to go when you get older?
It was the first thing to go.
I think that is so unfair, man.
But I think it's the cost component.
And many many procedures aren't covered by Medicare, being dental, vision, and hearing, and long-term care in assisted living or nursing facility. You know, many retirees are faced with unexpectedly high deductibles and copays too, though. So the best solution is to include unexpected medical costs in your budget as you build your retirement savings. Now, you can also enroll in a Medicare supplement insurance plan, which will help pay for copays or deductibles, co-insurance, or specifically and mainly prescription drugs, and Medicare, and medical expenses. People don't understand this. When you go overseas, Medicare doesn't cover you.
Yeah, and that's where those advantage plans, those supplemental plans, people really need to look into those, especially if you are on a lot of drugs and have high deductibles. And like the advantage plan I get through our retiree benefit from my company, it includes $2,000 coverage for dental. It includes eye exams every year. It includes some hearing things that are not covered in Medicare. So you need to look into those and find a supplemental plan, because there are hundreds out there and they all charge different rates and they all charge different amounts and they all cover different things. So that's another time of the year during that Medicare enrollment plan, which is usually late in the year. You'll have to sit down, do an analysis of which supplemental plan is best for you. And you literally have to sit and say, okay, I'm on these drugs. This is what it costs. These are the expenses I'm expecting next year. These are the number of doctor visits I expect to go to. You got your primary care. You have your specialist. The co-pays on those two things are different. So there's just a lot to look into. And that leads to the next one. Your healthcare will cost more than you expect. And that's guaranteed, because if you're working for a company, usually your dental is almost all covered, your vision's almost all covered. Of course, your hearing's covered. But under Medicare and even under Advantage plans, a lot of things aren't covered. And, all the time I worked, I paid $250 for a family plan. It covered me and my whole family, 6 people. Well, now I pay the minimum Medicare cost, and I think it's $165 a month for me and the spouse. So that's $330 right there. And last year I didn't have a whole lot of stock gains, so that kept my income lower. But if I had a normal year in stock and made another 50 to 100 grand, then my Medicare bill would be a lot higher, because again, as we said before, that payment is based on how much you make, which a lot of people don't know when they retire. Medicare goes back 2 years, look at what you made and charge you based on that. So,
and those not just what you made, but what your wife, what your spouse made.
Family, what your family makes. And again, they include things like Social Security, and they don't give you credit for like IRA distribution. So it's a bigger income number than you think. So just be aware of that.
Now, most people will need long-term care. Now, about 70% of people over 65, 70% though, over 65 age will need long-term care at some point in their lives. And this is according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. The cost will vary by state, but 3 years can easily set you back $300,000. Now, to protect against this likely expense, there are some advisors suggest retirees purchase long-term care, which was created to cover long-term costs like skilled nursing, assisted living, and hospice. But the thing about long-term care, though, when I first got into it, I didn't know a lot of the plans, long-term care is just for 5 to 6 years for some of the plans.
And we talked about how those rates, because they're finding that it costs a lot, the insurance companies are finding that it costs so much more than they anticipated. They're upping the rates 10, 15, 20% on people, and people have to decide whether to take lower coverage, to drop the plan altogether. it's an ugly one to look into, but as Bob said, it's a fact. A lot of people are going to need long-term care, which leads to the next one. Your overall health will obviously affect your retirement costs. And I always tell my kids about getting your annual physicals, getting your teeth checked, doing your regular exercise to make sure you take care of yourself. I always think about the line that Mickey Mantle said, and it was, if I knew I was going to live this long, I would have took better care of myself. and that's a fact. And I told my kids, I said, you can go to the dentist twice a year, do everything you're supposed to do, and that don't guarantee you ain't going to have tooth trouble. I mean, I've had two implants, and the first one was around $5,000, and the second was around $5,500, and that's just what it costs. I don't imagine it's going to get any lower, because between the extraction, putting in the base, and then putting on a crown on top of that, it's an expensive endeavor. So take care of yourself the best you can. That don't guarantee it's going to be cheap, but you have a better shot at it if you take better care of yourself.
Yeah, I mean that's a fact. Though inflation can eat away at people's nest egg, thanks in large part to strategic moves by the Federal Reserve, the U.S. has seen very little, inflation over the past 25 years. Still, as anyone who's lived through the sky-high inflation environment can attest, to 10% per year inflation can happen, and that's where we at. This is so interesting, but I'm talking about for at least 10, 15 years, we were at, single-digit inflation, like 2%, 3%. But now it's up to around, it's coming down though. I think it's around about high 8%, which was up high 9% about a couple of months ago, beginning of the year, should I say. But inflation can be devastating to retirees. And if you are in retirement for the 30 to 40 years, if you in retirement, there's some things you need to consider, especially the purchasing power, can be cut by 60 to 7% of the money that you earn just from inflation. So to combat inflation effects, a lot of times, me and Dope, we buy into like I bonds or TIPS, what they call TIPS, Treasury Inflation Protected Securities, or a lot of times real estate is a combat against inflation.
Yeah. Next, if you don't really know how much you're spending, you are really going to be in trouble when you retire, because you got to have an idea of how much you need. Because the one thing about retirement is you don't get many raises. You get inflation increases, but they usually are just meant to keep you even. So you really you get no more spending power during your retirement years. Most pensions don't have COLAs or cost of living adjustments in them. Some do, but most don't. So you got to have an understanding of what you're spending so you can figure out how much you're going to need when you retire. And you just have to, because you don't want, you can't be spending more than you have when you retire, or you're just basically going backwards. So you got to figure out how much you're going to need annually, and then how much you're getting from pensions, Social Security, investment, and make sure you're making way more than you're going to need, because you are going to have some health costs. And we already mentioned some of the other things that may come up, including helping your kids or your grandkids. You might have to take care of your parents. There's no telling what. So know what you're spending, know what you're going to need, have an idea what you're spending your money on.
This next one is a tough one, though. You can borrow for college, but you can't borrow for retirement. Many parents find themselves stuck between helping their children pay for college and wanting to save for retirement. However, putting a lot of money into a college fund isn't going to help your retirement savings, and it can make you can suffer as a result of it. So it is recommended that you set a budget for what you can afford to pay toward college. Me and Doug always talk about planning, goals, budgeting. So tell your children what portion you can afford to pay. And if you have any extra money after putting away what you need for retirement, it's so much better.
Yeah, and your employer might not help you get ready for retirement. Some companies may not have a 401k plan. And if you don't, then that's when you ought to be working hard on the IRAs, the Roth IRAs, and other tools to get you money saved for retirement. It's a must. Don't anticipate living on Social Security. It's not enough. Trust me.
Now, you could overspend on housing. And there's a survey about American financing that found that 44% of Americans ages 60 to 70 have a mortgage when they retire. Now, some retirees even upsize their homes, which is, woo, Lord have mercy. So having a hefty mortgage payment can seriously crimp your cash flow, particularly for people on a fixed income. So cutting your costs by downsizing is always a good idea. And, taxes, utilities, and maintenance costs can also go up when you buy a home.
Yeah, you don't want to be house poor. That's one of the things you want to stay away from. And again, this is all in the preparing to retire. In any case, you'd like to go in retirement with no house note. With no mortgage. And oftentimes you got this big house, and then all the kids are gone, and it might make sense for you to downsize, take the money from there and use that to support your lifestyle. But if you're thinking, and you can, you should try to, if you're 40 years old, 45 years old, try to get a 10-year mortgage or 15-year mortgage. It's not double the cost of a 30-year mortgage. It's obviously considerably higher, but it's not as much as you think. So cut the terms down so you can go into your retirement without that healthy house payment. And if you decide to downsize, that's more money you'll have in your pocket.
Angela Grubb Davis gave us a reminder that the open enrollment, I think that's for Medicare or for healthcare, is October through December. Yeah, that's Medicare.
Yeah, and if you're close, and if you miss it, there's a big penalty if you miss enrolling when you turn 65. So,
and it's a lifetime penalty though each year. I think it's 10%.
Yep, you got a 6-month window before you turn 65 and after you turn 65, in which you should make sure you apply. So, as you said, it's between October and December. You don't want to miss that, because if you don't make a choice, whatever you had, you're stuck with. And if your medical situation changed, then you will not be able to adjust as you may need to. And there's no guarantee that the plan you were in currently will not change. It may change. So that's a review you have to do every single year and pick the right plan for yourself.
And if you miss that 6 month on the backside, that's 10% for the life. It's 10% a year for the life of your Medicare, man. Yep. I'm like, golly.
That's rough.
Hey, let me tell you another truth about retirement. You might have to move. Now, depending where you live, you might consider moving to a place where your retirement money goes further. For many people, especially if they're worried about retirement, it's a move that can cut costs substantially. Also, an opportunity to relocate to a more attractive climate, like me and my knees, or move closer to your grandkids and, like-minded, people that have been transit to move down there to wherever you want to go.
Yeah. And again, you look at all the costs involved, but maybe you may be in a better position. But that's another one of those things. Make sure you understand all the tax situations that are involved if you move from one state to another, because they are different in every state. And make sure it's a situation. It may be your dream place. That's where you want to be, regardless of the cost. But if there's some wiggle room, for example, when I moved to the Charlotte area, I could have lived in North Carolina or South Carolina, and I obviously chose South Carolina because it had a much better tax situation than North Carolina, and I'm 15 minutes from downtown Charlotte.
Maddie crazy. Maddie said, "Here I come running, Wakanda forever." So you moving to Wakanda? I ain't mad at you.
Let me know what the tax situation's like up there.
Yeah, that might not be a bad move.
The next one is you might have to work part-time. We've already mentioned that. And that's one of those things you can actually find something that you enjoy and prepare yourself for while you're still working. Some people, like me, it doesn't bother me not having a lot to do. I mean, I spend a couple hours at the gym, and the rest of the day is whatever I feel like doing. But some people like to be active. Some people like to be around people, and if you can do that and make some money, that's going to help your retirement nest egg.
Well, this is the truth though, but some people don't like to hear this. Your adult children can derail your retirement plans. Now, cutting off the kids might be a necessary step if you're looking to retire. In fact, 79% of parents are continuing. Though, do you hear what I said? 79% of parents are continuing to support their adult children financially. And that's according to a Merrill Lynch age wave study. For many Americans, middle age is also the pre-income earning age. And ideally, when savers should have the most disposable income available to boost the retirement accounts. That's interesting, though. That's the biggest time where you have the prime income be putting in to your retirement fund. But financially funding a loved one during those years can have a serious impact on people's retirement savings, though.
Yeah, and not only kids, you could have aging parents that you have to take care of. And it's hard to tell your parents, no, I'm not going to help you out if they need it. So if you think that might be a situation, you might have to take that into account when you're doing your plan. Hopefully it won't. I mean, you obviously blessed that they're still living, but you may have to pony up some money to help them have live a modest life.
Well, another survey, Nationwide Retirement Institute, found that 38% of older adults have or have had their adult children live with them, and 16% have had their parents live with them. Some older adults may end up having to provide financial assistance and care to both generations at the same time. That's called being sandwiched between both generations. And this phenomenon is common that it has a name, the sandwich generation. But supporting loved ones, many people are sacrificing their own ability to save for retirement. Now, this survey found that 21% of older adults are somewhat or very concerned about financially supporting their adult children and or their parents.
Another situation people don't like to talk about is you'll have to sit down with your kids and talk about your end-of-life care decisions. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm trying to figure out which one of my kids has the most heart and won't put me in a state-run nursing home. But seriously, you got to consider what you want and let your kids know so they aren't put in a position of having to make decisions or arguing with the other kids. One kid feels this way, one kid feels that way. It's something that responsibly you should do, and make it like a playbook. So when something happens to you, they just follow the plan and keep it moving.
Keep it moving.
Yeah.
Oh, don't you need to discuss your wealth transfer plans too? Even for people with modest inheritance to pass down, it's often difficult to initiate the money conversation like we talked about, though, especially when you're not sure how your future heirs will react to the news of an impending windfall, like you said. Some children will feel guilt at the thought of an unearned financial boom and squander the funds. Others can misinterpret your intentions. Did dad love my sister more than me? Oh, it can be often uttered the phrase among children of the deceased. That's funny. Oh man. So to avoid the misinterpretation, you have to sit down and have this conversation with your, like you said, the future heirs, so they understand the rationale behind your decisions and can get started. This is a really important thing, though, that they get start preparing emotionally. Believe it or not.
Yeah, and the last thing you need to do is in that same conversation, discuss your burial plans. You know, because
Well, that's a tough one, though. Black people don't like to talk about this one.
yeah, but I can guarantee it's going to happen to all of us. So you need to deal with it. And again, that just makes it easier for the folks that are left if you make the decision while you're in sound mind and body. And that's one less thing for the kids to worry about or grieve over when something happens to you, that they know exactly. They go to the playbook, run the plays, keep it moving.
Well, you know what the old guy told me, though? He said, Bob, you better be careful because you can wake up dead. Let's go to the takeaways. We covered a lot, though. We covered a lot, and these are truths about retirement. We've talked about it before, but we went a little bit more extensive, and we hope you all, was following because that was a lot of information.
There's a lot involved in it, that's for sure.
So, first one, though, from our overall summary is plan for what you can. There's so many unexpected, unintended consequences that can happen between here and, when you retire or when you pass away. We can't plan, we can't anticipate everything, but plan for what you can. That's the most important thing. And get started because most people, that's the problem. They don't plan at all and they just let things happen. So you can't plan for everything. But the sooner you start, putting some preparation in, the better.
And early planning just eases the process. The earlier you can start, whether it's saving or figuring out what you're going to do, it makes everything easier the sooner you start. And like for retirement, it's never too early to start planning for retirement. But the earlier you start, the easier the process is going to be.
Keep up with the changes. The retirement options and plans are changing all the time. For instance, in 2022, both sides, Congress and the Senate, and both sides, the Democrats and the Republicans, passed the Secure 2.0 Act, which dealt with the retirement saving options for people. And it was three things that they went to cover to help people save for retirement, and to help employees be able to fund retirement. And check it out because there's a bunch of changes with the retired minimum distribution has changed to now 63 in 2023, and 2033 is moving up to 75. The matching, the contributions, look at those things because retirement options are constantly changing. You need to keep up with them.
Yeah, and retirement planning is complicated. I was under the impression that it would, you just kick back and drink mint juleps, but it's a lot going on between open enrollment, what's going on tax-wise, keeping on top of things. It's a whole lot of moving parts. And as we always tell you, if you aren't going to do it yourself and stay up on it, make sure you have a trusted advisor who's looking at your entire picture and making sure you are being put in the best possible place. So it's complicated, but the more you get into it, get it done, the better your situation will be.
Put the work in to enjoy your golden years. That's what this whole thing's about. Plan for what you can, start as early as you can, keep up with the changes, and you put the work in. When your golden years come, you'll be less stressed, and hopefully you'll be in a better position, uh, for retirement. And that's the whole story. So we hope y'all learned a lot from the day. Hey, Tracy Wiley, how you doing? I'm just going to hire my favorite uncle to help me through the retirement process. Who would that be?
That's my niece. That's my
that's smart move.
Sweetheart.
Smart move. So thanks everybody for tuning in. As always, this is our 95th show. We head to 100, though. As I always do, we like to give out, shout out, just our way of thanking everybody for tuning in. Joanne Skinner, what's up, Joanne? Rodney L. Madison Sr., the noteexperience.com. Go out there and learn about mortgage notes and holding them, you all. You can be the bank. Maddie Ford, what's up, Maddie? We see you. Wakanda forever, Maddie. Wakanda forever. I'm moving there with you, babe. What's up now? How you doing?
I want the beachfront. If Wakanda got beachfront, that's what I want.
Yeah, I'm with you. What's up now? Penn State finest DST Delta Sigma Theta in the house. Rodney Madison. Okay. What Rodney got here? He put some messages out that I missed. Okay. It's Rodney said, yes, I hear what the national averages are for retirement savings. I'm very surprised, but I always feel I haven't saved enough. But in comparison, I should feel good. All right, good for you, Home Slice. And Angela Grubbs Davis, thank you for your information. What's up, Angie? Thank everybody for tuning in. This has been another great session. That was 20 pounds of information in a 5-pound bag. That was a lot, but we got through it. Thank you all for tuning in. Tune in next week. And remember, y'all, put some comments in there for other subjects you'd like for us to talk about, because we want to reach you where you are. This is not about being dope. It's about the people who wants to increase their wealth and want to establish generational wealth to pass it on. And with that, make sure you just pass this on to your family members. It's on YouTube Live. You can go and find this show, and all the other archive shows are out there. Just go out there and look on YouTube Live, on Facebook Live and on YouTube. They're archived in both places. Put in the FITT Show, FITT capitalized show. Financial information for the day and tomorrow. We will see you next week. As always, peace.
Peace.